Hello, I want to talk to you today about how small irritations can turn into really big problems at work. And I think it's important to note that most workplace problems don't actually start with these big disagreements. They start with these small irritations that feel, at the time, they feel too minor to mention. Which is exactly why they do survive and they start stacking up until they become this enormous thing that we can't deal with. Okay, so at the same time, we have been told that letting things go is kind of mature and it's a professional way to be, but actually addressing these small things can actually pay lots of dividends over time and stop these bigger problems. So, what are some of these small irritations, these triggers? So, I'm sure we recognise a lot of them. Being interrupted repeatedly in small ways is really irritating. At the same time, they're very similar. Being corrected publicly instead of privately is kind of public shaming, and who likes that? And another bad one is things being treated as a joke or people making throwaway comments that can land badly at any time, but especially on a bad day. So there is this internal unnoticed phase that we don't publicly acknowledge even to ourselves, but we feel stressed. We start registering irritation physically before it actually becomes a mental awareness that we've got it. So we start hesitating, we start bracing ourselves, tightening, withdrawing from the conversation. So we start adjusting our behaviour before we actually decide what to do. And as I said, professionalism in inverted commas can make that worse because we can think, oh, well, we're just imagining it, or we need to be above this. The second phase of this, things start shifting and the original issue might fade away, the interruptions might fade away, but what it then becomes is something around the other person. What does grow is a story about the other person. That person is like this, their tone and intent, we've kind of second guessed it and we know that they've got it in for us. We know that they're going to always be like this. We know they're jealous of us. We know they're trying to keep us down and so on. And those neutral sorts of actions that we used to acknowledge as neutral start carrying this emotional weight. We then go into what I call the escalation phase. So what's actually escalated things is not one incident, but the accumulation of these incidents, plus the stress that it's causing you, and bad timing, and this unspoken meaning that I've just talked about, the identity, the issue. So by the time it's visible, it's already personal, which is why it's very hard to talk about plainly. And if you do take it to your manager, they only often see the explosion part of it. They think, oh, it's all your fault. Why have you sort of like acted so impetuously and childishly? The manager hasn't seen all of the build up to this. So they're probably thinking, oh my God, what's going on? They don't see the underlying frictions. A major part of this is that we all think that we're the reasonable adult in the room. People also underestimate how fast goodwill drains away when these sorts of irritations happen. By the time something's raised, it can be almost too late. So what I think is useful is to think of early irritation as being information to inform how you're going to behave and how you're going to deal with something, not as a trigger for drama. Secondly, being right doesn't mean anything in this respect. So it doesn't protect you from resentment. It doesn't make you better at dealing with things at all. And then lastly, silence might preserve your politeness and your professionalism, but it does erode trust and it evades the whole issue of dealing with this escalating set of behaviours before it becomes too dramatic. Well, I hope that that's been useful for you, and I will see you next time.